It has been said that the average speed on the autobahns, the highways in Germany, is 140 kilometers per hour with a standard deviation of 28.1. These would both be parameters because they're coming from all vehicles that travel along those highways. The German Federal Police are curious as to whether or not the speed has changed recently and observed 50 cars traveling at 134.1 kilometers per hour. Using a 95% confidence interval, evaluate the speed. Remember, when we try and find our intervals, it's x bar plus or minus. You have to ask yourself if it's a z or a t interval. In this case, our standard deviation of the population is known and our sample size is large. So both of the things are true. So we're definitely looking at a z here. You're going to multiply that by your standard error, which would be your standard deviation divided by the square root of n. So I have 134.1 plus or minus. It's a 95% confidence interval. So if I want to draw a picture that went along with that, I'm cutting off 0.025 on both sides, 5% split evenly, and that's going to give me a value of 1.96. Just use your inverse norm in your calculator to get that. My standard deviation, which is 28.1, over the square root of my sample size, which in this case is 50. Margin of error. That tells you how far away from 134.1, what kind of interval am I going to get. When I do my work over there, I'm going to end up with 134.1 plus or minus 7.8 kilometers per hour. When I take that 7.8, add it and subtract it, I'm going to end up with this interval. Well, now at this point, I have a number that we're looking at. We're looking at the 140 miles per hour. The 140, barely, but it's still inside that interval. Since it's inside that interval, 140 is a very possible outcome here. 140 is quite possibly the average speed on those highways. Well, they're checking that. So from our 95% confidence interval, we're able to say that this doesn't support the idea that the speed has changed, because 140 could still possibly be the average because it falls inside my interval. So this interval does not support the idea that the speed has changed recently.